Welcome back to Nothing About Something. I am your host, Lauren, and today we're going to do something a little different. If you are a regular listener to Nothing About Something podcast, it is a guest based show. So every episode, I have people come on and talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. But I'm limited in my amount of friends. So not all the time do I have people lining up at my door to do a podcast episode. So that's where the idea rapid fire came into play. Growing up, my parents would always tell me I'm throwing too many ideas at them at once. They called it rapid fire. Like I would just rapidly fire off ideas. I would talk too fast. It was overwhelming. I figured if I'm doing an episode by myself, just like a little miniature episode, I didn't really want to copy any other podcasters' edition of a mini episode. So some people call it mini-sode or mini episode. I wanted to call my little mini episodes rapid fires. So every once in a while, not on any particular schedule, we're going to have some rapid fires come out. And today is the first one. Super excited. This is basically when nobody's lining up at my door. I don't have any lined up interviews and I want to shoot a podcast. So this is rapid fire and this is me just rambling by myself. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, are you ready?
Wait, we're making another one?
Shit. For today's rapid fire episode, I really wanted to talk about consistency and showing up. So normally my podcast episodes are a little bit more fun, lighthearted. We talk about stupid shit. Today is going to be more of a serious episode. I was really inspired whenever I did my interview with Ray Trevino. We had so much fun just talking about business and mindset, and that's where this episode comes into play. So one thing that I'm going to have to silence my notifications. Uno momento. I'm going to get canceled for saying that. Okay. All right. Notification silenced. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was just consistency in general. This really applies to me personally. And honestly, I feel like can apply to anybody and anything that you do. So one thing about being a business owner that I have come to find out is consistency is what is going to make or break what you do. When the going gets tough, if you say, fuck this, I'm done, I'm not doing it anymore, that is whenever you decide that you don't want to continue to put in that effort. You don't want to keep going. And that is the end of your business. So you might have had a really great idea if you would have stuck to it, but because you let that little bit of doubt sink in and because you decided, I'm done, you never got to find out. So consistency is something that I have been struggling with a little bit more particularly for this show. This is something that I've always wanted to do. I've always thought it would be a lot of fun, but it's a lot. Having to try and recruit interviews, trying to get people to be on the podcast, and then trying to get people to listen to the podcast is a whole other thing. Not to mention, if anybody's ever attempted to produce a podcast from start to finish by themselves, it's a lot of work. It's not just whipping out some microphones and having fun. Just my setup alone, having the lights, having the tripod, having the microphones, recruiting the interview, planning the interview, it probably takes 2 hours just on average, just 30 minutes alone to set up my equipment. So then you also run into the editing process. And for me, I listen to every episode all the way through. That way I make sure that I know what's going to come out to you guys. And by the time it's all said and done with, it's a lot of work. So I've been really struggling with being consistent on it. Not that I don't want to, I just feel like there's a lot in my life that I'm doing with my business and with friends and moving and trying to have a healthy balance at the gym that the podcast hasn't been super high on the priority list because it's a hobby. I'm not making any money off of this. One day I hope to. My goal at the end of this year is to make $1 off the show. And if I could make $1 off the show, I'm a happy camper. But I it's just a struggle. It's hard to stay consistent with something that is not providing any financial gain to you, but it's a hobby. I guess that's where your passion for it comes in. I think whenever your hobby is dependent on other people is whenever it is hard to show up. For example, I like to ride motorcycles. That's a hobby that doesn't really depend on anybody else. I just go out, I ride whenever I want, come back, end of story. I don't have to call up friends, hey, can you come do this with me? I can just do it whenever I want. It's different with podcasting. Even though it is a hobby, there's so much back end that goes into it that it makes it like a job, even though it is a hobby. With all of that being said, consistency has been something that has been a little bit challenging for me in this, but there's something in the back of my mind that says if you give up now, you're never gonna know what this is going to be. And I think that is so true for pretty much anything that anyone does, like going to the gym. If you go to the gym for 6 months and you don't see your abs show, for example, or you don't see your biceps become as big as you wanted them to, but you've consistently shown up to the gym for 6 months and you stop because you're like, the results aren't what I wanted, so I'm done. Yeah, it's discouraging, but you're never going to know what you're going to look like in 2 years. So maybe if you would have stayed consistent with it, your biceps would have been the size that you wanted them to be, or you would have had abs pop up if you would have just continued on for another 6 more months. That's how I'm trying to approach things with my show, with this podcast, with my business, is being consistent and continuing to show up is what is going to provide success. And when the going gets tough, not stopping and just giving up, throwing my hands in the air, calling it quits. I'm just going to keep going. And I wholeheartedly believe for anybody that has the motivation to continue on when other people don't, you're the kind of person that's going to make it. You are going to be successful in whatever you choose to do as long as you're consistent. And I'm sure there's other things that could determine your success, but ultimately, if you try hard enough at something for long enough, you're going to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and you're going to fix it so that it ends up working. In the analogy of the gym, you train for 4 years and seriously, nothing has happened, nothing is different. Okay, you're probably in decent shape, but maybe you want a little bit more. Maybe it's time to look into your diet. Being consistent is good, but then evaluating where you're at, I think, is also really important to figure out, okay, I've been consistent for this long, but it's not fully working. Let me figure out what is. Enough rambling about consistency and showing up. That's what motivated me, or it is what motivated me to do this episode. So I wanted to kick it off with that. And as we know, my podcast, Nothing About Something, was inspired by Jerry Seinfeld himself and the show Seinfeld. The best show I've ever seen. I love it, love watching it, watched it all the way through 100 times. It feels like love Seinfeld. So Jerry Seinfeld actually has a method called Don't Break the Chain. It was meant to help him maintain consistency in his work. So what the Don't Break the Chain method is he marked each day on the calendar with a red X after completing his daily writing goal. So over time, the chain of X's became a visual reminder of his progress, and it motivated him to keep going. And I've done this, especially when it comes to cardio and abs in the gym are the two things that I absolutely despise doing, but probably should do them. And for a while, I would mark on my calendar, it was check marks, not X's, but I see where the X's come into play because it does connect and look like a chain. But I would check every day of the calendar that I did an ab workout or I did cardio. And that made me feel so much more motivated to actually do it because looking at the physical calendar and seeing all of those days that I actually did it, it made me more motivated to continue on. And I think it comes down to writing down. For me, I'm very visual, so maybe this won't work for you, but writing down your progress. So in the gym, again, for me, I physically write down each and every workout that I do. And at the end of the month, I go back and I count and I see, okay, I've done X amount of workouts. That's on par with my 5 workouts per week. I've achieved my goals. And I feel more motivated because I wrote it down and there was concrete proof that I actually went to the gym that many days. Whereas if you don't write it down, you don't really know how often you did that particular task. And then to a point, it gets away from you and you're like, I wasn't going to do it anyways. But it's almost like a visual accountability. You can see it, you can write it down, and if you don't write it down, it's almost like a mind trick that you feel bad that you didn't do that thing. So I really like Jerry Seinfeld's don't break the chain method. Another thing that I found for developing good habits was James Clear's atomic habit system. So author James Clear argues that consistent small habits are the key to achieving big goals. By focusing on small changes and building momentum over time, you can create a positive feedback loop that leads to long-term success. There's a lot to unpack with that one. Even though it is very short, it's very concise, there's a lot of meaning to this. If you've ever heard of the term snowball effect, I'm sure most people have, we typically use it in a negative sense. So you started getting worried about something and you snowballed out of control and your worries just got bigger and bigger. In this case, whenever I listen or whenever I read about the atomic habit system, I picture a snowball. Your snowball starts at the top of the hill, really tiny, with one small habit. And as you achieve that goal or you continue to progress along in what you're trying to do, your snowball starts to roll and starts to get a little bigger. You're going to feel good about yourself because you completed this task. You did what you wanted to do. After going to the gym, oh, yes, awesome, I did that. Or after you check everything off of your to-do list, you just feel great. You feel happy that you achieved those things that you set out to do. So I guess what James is saying here is that it starts a positive feedback loop. And so your snowball starts to get a little bit bigger. And as you complete tasks that you set out to accomplish, you're going to be more motivated to complete other tasks. And I think that's why a lot of people on TikTok or just in the internet space in general will make videos about how successful people have habits that they have developed over time and they've stuck with it. The gym. I keep going back to the gym, but I really believe that the gym is a habit of many successful people. If you can keep your body in shape, ultimately it's going to help check your mind and keep your mind in shape. And then you're going to be more motivated to achieve bigger, great things because you stayed consistent, you showed up, your mind's right, your body's right, and now your goals are going to start to fall into place. Whereas if you don't get up, you aren't motivated, you just do the same thing every day, watch TV, whatever, and you really have no direction, you really have no consistency with anything, it's going to be harder for you to achieve those goals or the goals that you set out for yourself. But with all of that being said, this is totally just my opinion. I know people are going to see this and they're going to come at me. That's not true, Lauren. I sit on the couch all day and I get so much shit done. Awesome. If that works for you, that's amazing. These are just my opinions. You can take it or leave it. You can choose to turn this show off if you want, if you don't want to listen. But these are just my opinions and I'm going to stick to them. But you definitely don't have to agree with me. Even if you want to nicely disagree, let's have a conversation about it. Come on a show, we can talk about it. But these are definitely just my opinions. There's a few more things that I wanted to touch on before I wanted to wrap up this rapid fire episode. as I do every once in a while, I will go scroll through Reddit in the middle of one of my breaks throughout the day, whether a lunch break or if I'm sitting pumping my car with gas. I'll go on Reddit and find stupid little shit. And one of the stupid things that I found on Reddit, it's actually not that stupid. It was pretty great. It was a meme, I guess as you would call it, or a graphic. And it was two pictures. The picture to the left was of a little stick figure man standing on top of a mountain, and his little caption bubble said, "I did it." And above that image says, "The strength we're taught to admire." And then to the right of that image, you have the same little man, but instead of being on top of a mountain, he is crawling out of a hole, like a deep hole that's, I'd say, 7 times his size. So large hole. And the caption comes out of his mouth saying, "I did it." And above that picture, it says, "The strength we should also admire." And the caption on this graphic was, "Learn to appreciate the process and not just the result." I think this is so important because when we're looking at people on social media, we're talking to people in our day-to-day activities. People like to tell you about the great things they've done. I think that's just natural human nature. We love to share with people that we care about or people that we don't, the great things that we've done in life, because that kind of gives us a sense of, oh, I did good. You feel good about yourself after you talk about the good things that you've done. And we admire that. Naturally, if somebody says, "I built a 6-figure business in a year," I'm going to admire that. Or if somebody just says, "Yeah, I have $1 million company." What I see is, awesome. This person has $1 million company. And you appreciate that. You appreciate the fact that they have a very profitable company. They're successful. But what we don't think about oftentimes is the process it took that person to get to that $1 million company. The process that person had to go through for an entire year to build a 6-figure business. How many hours they were devoting to this business. Or bodybuilders, for example, how many years and days of training and eating good and not going out with their friends, not having drinks at the bar, that it took for them to get to that physique. I think any kind of success is built. Yes, there are those instances where sometimes you'll go viral. That's instant success, instant fame, whatever. But you never really truly know the back end. The person that achieved that goal is really the only one that knows through and through how much effort they put into that thing that they're now successful at. So the moral of this story is, don't just look at the success of other people and assume that's just so amazing and you could never get there. Look at the process. Looking at the process that somebody took to get somewhere is almost more humanizing. It allows us to feel like things are more in reach, but we just don't talk about that. We don't talk about the process to success as much as we talk about the actual success. And if we started talking about the process more, if we started normalizing the process to success, I think a lot more people would be more motivated because they would actually feel like they could do it. They could feel like they follow the journey of that person to their success. It makes it more within reach. So I loved that image. Great post. I will definitely include that in the show notes. And the next thing I found was somebody posted, "I have been so unmotivated lately. How could I motivate myself? I couldn't even get myself to write this. I've been very lazy and unmotivated. After work, all I want to do is lay on the couch and scroll through my phone. I want to start working out, cooking, reading, making goals for myself. Where do I even start?" And that is so challenging because if you're working a 9 to 5 job, you get up a little early, you get ready, you drive to your 9 to 5, you work, you come home and you're tired. You don't want to do anything. There's so much that you might want to do, but you feel like you don't have the time for. And in order to make that time, you're sacrificing on sleep. So I completely, utterly understand what this person was going through. One of the top comments was, Physical. Your lethargy? Your lethargy. I know this word. Anyways, your lethargy? Gosh, people are going to make fun of me. I have a college degree. Anyways, can be medical. Low on vitamin D, iron, zinc, etc. Make sure your nutrition is in check. Start walking 20 minutes a day. That's pretty feasible to do. Next thing they said was mental. Then do a mental brain dump. Write down all of the things in your head. Believe it or not, this is amazing to feel better. Goes back to what we talked about earlier, is just the visualizing your goals, writing things down, doing the Jerry Seinfeld method, or doing the James Clear's Atomic Habits, same type of thing. Emotional. Write letters to everyone that has caused an intense emotion in your life. Apologize, forgive, give the last word in, whatever, and then burn them. Financial. Do a financial assessment and establish a budget. Set a goal. Set up a 12-month plan, adding something to your life that you want to do. And do weekly check-ins with an accountability partner. This person did, I think, a really great job summarizing tangible ways that you can go out and make changes in your life, even when you feel like you don't have enough time. By going on that 20-minute walk, it sounds like it might be a really challenging thing to do. You might not have time, but maybe you get out of your car, you get home, you don't give yourself a second to sit down. You immediately just start on your walk. If you need to pack workout clothes and then change before you leave work, that way you can literally hop out of your car and just walk around. Or if you want to have your workout clothes ready and then just go on your walk after you get off, however you can get that workout in. Or maybe you want to go before work. Maybe you're a morning person. I'm not, night person. But maybe you want to get up early and go for your walk to start your day. Once you start to build that routine, it becomes normal, it becomes a habit, and then you're more likely to do it. Mental, so doing a brain dump, writing down all of the things that you have in your head, or writing down all of the things that people have done to you, or things that you resent people for, or issues that you have. Writing them down and burning that is a really good way to release stress. I've heard many people talk about it. Personally, I have not done that myself. I do write down things in my notes app on my phone though, and it does help me to kind of forget and forgive, I guess. If I write it down and I use that message to talk to the person, if I'm actively have a relationship with that person and want to communicate how I feel, writing it down helps me to compartmentalize. Or if it's somebody that you don't talk to anymore, somebody away from your past, and you want to just write it down and get your feelings out. And I see the potential for that to really work. Like I said, haven't done it, but I know many people that have talked about doing it. It's a popular thing talked about in therapy, so definitely see benefits for it. And the last thing is doing a budget, setting up a 12-month plan just for things in your life, and doing weekly accountability checks. That's the last thing that I wanted to touch on in this rapid fire episode, is setting long-term goals for yourself. With me, I like to post a video every month that I have been successful in owning my business, because for me, if I stop posting those videos, the momentum dies for me. So having this diary of videos that I can continue to add on makes me feel like I'm progressively getting more successful. The fact that I made it to month 1, month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. of my business allows me to have a tangible moment, or just a moment where I can sit down and to myself think about the fact that I have successfully made it this many months in my business. And making that video, whether you post it or not, personally allows me to remember all of the things that I've done within all of these months and how I've become successful. And it really just motivates me to keep going. So I think a 12-month plan is a really good idea, writing down your goals and having something to keep you in check, like those videos do for me. And the last one, I think, is having that accountability partner. Having somebody that you can constantly talk to and check in with is really going to help you, because you're not bound to how motivated you are. You have that external sense of accountability, somebody that is going to check in and possibly be disappointed with you if you don't complete what you set out to do. If you're in a relationship, your friends, your family, whatever, find that one person that can hold you accountable to things and check in with them and see how that makes a difference in your life. That is all that I have for this episode of Nothing About Something. Thank you for joining me on my first ever rapid fire episode. Hopefully, these start to be something that you guys resonate with, or if you have any questions at all or anything that you would like for me to cover in a rapid fire episode, let me know. I would be so happy to chat with you or to write it down and do a rapid fire about your topic. So send them in, nothingaboutSomething@gmail.com. There is an infinite amount of possibilities of things that I could talk about. So let me know what you want to hear, and I'm happy to talk about it. As always, be sure to rate and subscribe to our show. That is what is going to allow us to get those sponsors and allow me to make at least $1 this year. So thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.